Whether it's exploring an interconnected world full of branching paths and secrets, navigating through a series of obstacles to get to the next room, or narrowly avoiding an onslaught of attacks to avoid damage, movement is one of the most important aspects of any game. And while there are countless games with excellent movement, I want to talk about one game in particular. If you haven't been living under a rock, DRG is a cooperative shooter where you and up to 3 others play as a dwarf working for the company Rock Galactic. Your job is to drop from orbit onto the hostile planet Hoxie's 4 and complete various missions, all while collecting precious minerals and fighting hordes of bugs. Now, there are many things that make DRG such an amazing game, like its engaging combat or gripping soundtrack that both really get your adrenaline pumping, as well as so much more. Most of these are very large aspects of the game, but DRG's movement is more like multiple smaller parts making something larger than their sum, with one of those parts being the missions. Starting off, when you go to choose a mission, there are a few things to look out for, mainly the mission length and cave complexity, with mission length affecting the quota you need to meet, and cave complexity resulting in larger, more complex rooms and tunnels. Aside from that, missions can also have anomalies. There's things like Gold Rush and Mineral Mania, which cause the respective resource to spawn more. Volatile Guts makes enemies violently combust on death, while Golden Bugs makes them drop gold instead. And there's some fun ones like Low Gravity or Rich Atmosphere, which makes everyone's voice sound funnier. Along with anomalies, missions can also have warnings on them. Whereas anomalies are typically buffs, warnings are debuffs. There's things like Elite Threats, which cause stronger enemy variants to appear, lethal enemies increase the damage bugs do, and Haunted Cave has an invulnerable ghost enemy following you throughout the mission. And while not every mission is going to have anomalies or warnings, you can get multiple of one or even a mix of the two. So depending on what you get, missions can feel drastically different. With Low Gravity, you don't have to worry about falling to your death, but with the Haunted Cave, you need to constantly be on the move to avoid the slow yet dangerous ghost. This combined with the varying levels of complexity of caves helps missions not feel repetitive and adds a ton of variety to how you move through levels. Next, I can actually talk about the missions, which there are 8 of. Each mission has a different objective, whether that's on-site refining, requiring you to connect pipelines to liquid morkite geysers, escort duty, which has you protecting Doretta the drill dozer in an effort to collect an armor and heartstone, or a simple mining expedition where you need to collect morkite. With that, each mission has different types of cave generation as well. On-site refining has one large cavern with a central refinery platform. Escort duty has a large starting room and multiple unconnected large caverns, and a mining expedition has a series of linear connected caves with a treasure room near the end. Now, while 8 different missions might not sound like much, they all feel vastly different with how you move through them. You can grind on the pipelines and on-site refining, and can basically make your own roller coaster. With escort duty, you can ride on Doretta while keeping bugs off her and repairing any damage she takes. And with mining expeditions, you might go to the end of the tunnel system to get as many minerals as you can in the treasure room. The next part of DRG's movement is about where the missions take place, that being the biomes. Hoxie's has 10 in total, with each looking completely different than the others. The Zerweld, for example, is a neon-colored jungle brimming with different flora and fauna, while the sandblasted corridors are a barren wasteland full of fossilized remains. On top of having different appearances though, biomes also have their own set of unique features, hazards, and enemy types that separate them from the others. For example, the blizzards in the glacial strata can freeze you in place, but oases can protect you from the cold. There's also deep snow which can break your fall, but slows you down when walking through it, as well as cracks in the ground that open into crevasses once you step on them. Meanwhile, the fungus bogs have steam geysers that propel you in the air, plants that explode when damaged, and poisonous spore mushrooms that release toxic vapors when you get too close. While not every feature or hazard is specific to a biome, with some of them overlapping or being similar, like the sandblasted corridors having sandstorms instead of blizzards, or the dense biozone and magma core also having exploding plants, each region still feels different due to their unique aesthetic and combination of hazards changing what you have to look out for as you travel through the cave systems. Moving on, the next part has to do with the terrain, specifically how you interact with it, which most of the time is through the use of your pickaxe. Regardless of class, each dwarf is equipped with one, and while its most important use is to rock and stone, you can also use it as a melee weapon, or to collect resources like gold and nitra, but I'm going to be talking about how it can break terrain. Now, what's interesting about the terrain of Hoxie's is that not only is it procedurally generated, but it's entirely destructible. The planet is yours to shape as you please. You can either create new paths, or just destroy whatever's in your way. the most common obstacle being compacted dirt, but there's plenty of other terrain as well, such as common rock and its many variations. All these variations have different levels of hardness, hardness being defined as how many hits it takes to break the terrain. In the sandblasted corridors, the sandstone breaks in 1 hit, in the salt pits, the common salt breaks in 2, and in the magma core, common rock breaks in 3. While small, these differences build upon the already unique biome features, as the way you interact with everything around you is slightly different. Like for me, I really like being able to use my pickaxe to destroy the terrain, so one of my favorite biomes is the sandblasted corridors. Aside from the pickaxe though, there are other tools to help you traverse through Hoxies, as each class has their own unique support tool. The Scout's grappling hook will abruptly pull them to a targeted location, the Gunner can make long-range ziplines, the Engineer can create makeshift terrain, and last but certainly not least, the Driller has, well, drills, which work the same as a pickaxe, except they're much faster and clear a larger area. What I really like about these tools is that they have upgrades you can acquire to alter them to your personal preference. For example, the grappling hook can either give fall damage reduction or an increase in move speed after landing. The Driller can focus on the mining speed or cooling rate of the drills. The Gunner can increase the max range or angle of the zipline. And the Engineer can add a repellent so enemies avoid platforms or have their velocity transfer to the platforms as they shoot out. So on top of each class already having drastically different support tools, being able to customize them to your preference really helps to feel more impactful. For example, on the Scout, I like to run max range with increased pull speed and cooldown so I can fly across caverns, but someone else can run max cooldown with the movement increase to have more speed on the ground. Now while I like all of the support tools, some of them on their own feel better than others, but I don't necessarily view that as a bad thing. If I was to somehow get the same map layout each with a different class, none of them would really play out the same. Each class has different ways of solving problems which help them feel unique to the others, as the way they have to traverse through the caves can be drastically different. For example, if I wanted to reach some high up minerals, as the Driller, I could make a small tunnel to get up to them. As the Scout, I could grapple up and make an indent in the wall. I could shoot a series of platforms as the Engineer, or just shoot them down as the Gunner. Along with that, playing solo or with a squad affects how you maneuver as well. On your own, you are accompanied by the all-purpose drone Bosco. He can light up areas, mine minerals, fight enemies, as well as revive you if you go down. And while Bosco might sound really broken, when compared to a full team, he doesn't stand a chance. And that's because each class is designed to synergize with the others. With the same example as before, the Engineer could shoot one platform instead of many, and just have the Scout grapple up to it. Along with that, anyone can use a Driller's tunnels, or the Gunner's zipline, and platforms from the Engineer. So while on your own, you only have your support tool in Bosco, a full party has access to all of the tools, as well as their combined effects. Before I finish up, there's a few other cool movement things that I didn't want to leave out. For example, some weapon overclocks can affect movement, like the hover clock for the Scout, which lets them hover while performing a focus shot with the M1000. The jury-rigged boomstick can get a special powder overclock that basically lets you rocket jump. Along with that, some beers in the Abyss Bar can alter your movement. Backbreaker Stout gives you increased move speed when carrying objects. Rocky Mountain decreases the hits needed to break terrain, and Tunnel Rot reduces fall damage. As well, there are movement perks like Dash or Hover Boots. So for a game all about mining minerals and killing bugs, it's really incredible just how much effort was put into all these different aspects of DRG. And while on their own, they might not seem like much, when you put them all together, they truly shine. Not every game needs to have a focus on its movement, but I'll never complain when a studio like Ghost Ship Games makes it feel this meaningful. Until next time, mateys, I wish you all the best, and I'll leave you with a heartfelt rock and stone.